We present a series of 6 programmes featuring ladies whose business it is to make us laugh.
It's disgusting. What is it?
It's a nude.
It's not nice. It's got no clothes on.
Is that supposed to be me? It doesn't look anything like me.
Well, it's got to go up in a public place. We've got to be careful.
Good evening, H. Well. After all these years, eh?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm afraid I don't remember you.
Of course you do. How could you forget your old games, mistress?
Well.
Sue, let go of Neville. Well, because flowers don't hold hands, they just touch fingertips.
Don't breathe a word of this to a living soul.
Indeed I won't, sir. Not to a... No. Ah, there you go.
The Comedians. And this week, Betty Marsden.
That was really a superb dinner, darling.
I'm glad you liked it, darling. Now, shall we make ourselves comfortable, Diana?
Yes. I like that, Nigel.
Over here on the sofa.
It's beautifully soft. Mind if I kick my shoes off, darling?
By all means, do. Let's have some music, shall we?
Nigel?
Yes, darling.
The light's awfully bright in here. It's dazzling me.
I'll switch it off. Oh, how adorable you look in the firelight.
Come here, Nigel.
Darling.
Oh, darling.
That was an excerpt from Things to Come.
Well, I was born in Liverpool, but I don't remember much about that because I moved from there to Aylesbury. I suppose I think I must have been about 2. But I remember I was rather large. When I was older, we moved to a town called Shepton Mallet in Somerset. And in the days, of course, of the big recession of those days was something to talk about. But, of course, being a child, I didn't know much about it. But I was always acting. I was always sticking my dress in my bloomers. I had a family, but I was the youngest. The 3 brothers were much older than I. A sister. We were absolutely broke. And my father went from job to job, and lost every one of them. And so we were living on a very, very grim line of poverty. But, of course, as children, you just don't notice it because it's the adults that do without, and the children are always, the bread and jam and the bread and dripping. You always have something to eat. And at the end of my garden, there was a private house. I was fascinated by the people who lived there. They were so, glamorous, I thought they were. There was a woman, an older woman, who used to walk round the garden with a shawl round her head, and I used to watch her because she used to go to these stone urns full of flowers and sort of pick off dead heads and put them in a little basket, a trug, I believe it was called, and I used to stare at her through the hedge, and one day she said to me, "Why have you made a hole in my head, little girl?" And I said, "I like looking at you." She said, "Oh, well, come in." She became a very great friend, a very great friend. She was an old woman. Eventually I called her grandmother. And her daughter, who was a rather famous music teacher at that time, stood in her drawing room and said, "Make me laugh." She's a bit... You think that you have hard times, you try that when you're 9 years old. But I did, and I succeeded. She became extremely interested in me. And it was through her that she found people who sponsored me. Had an audition with Italia Conti, and I got into Italia Conti. Did a lot of impersonations. First of all, I recited like mad. And Bianca Murray, who was Italia Conti's sister, said, "Elocution isn't acting, And the woman who'd taken me, my guardian, I called her in the end, said, I think you'll find this child understands that. I sang tenor, soprano and everything very badly, but she sat with her hand over her face and the eyes were just looking at me. And anyway, I got in and eventually I won a 6-year scholarship.
Wanted a gamekeeper, young and attractive. He must be active and a good shot. Wanted a gamekeeper used to a pheasant, who'll make himself pleasant when others are not. He'll have a hut right in the wood, and once the door's shut, never have it so good. Wanted a gamekeeper, someone who'll be willing to play a few games with me. Wanted a gamekeeper down in the clearing. Is he overhearing my singing for love? Wanted a gamekeeper who's a good beater and anxious to meet her, fair maid from above. Someone who'll teach her to handle a gun, so that they each have a whole load of fun. Wanted a gamekeeper fond of all games, who's willing to call me a lot of rude names. Down in the forest something has stirred. Someone is using four-letter word. Wanted a gamekeeper who's a real man. They were snapped up when they lifted the ban.
Bianca Murray said, you dance? I said, oh, yes, full of myself, of course, in my long black boots, and very square. I was like a sugar cube, with a fringe and a bob. And she said, bring in Charlie. Charlie came in, a tall, very, very thin young man of about 18. To me, he looked 12. He was in shorts, knobbly knees and glasses. And she said, Charlie, play something for this child to dance to. And he just sat at the piano and he played. His name was Charles Hawtrey. I played The Prince and the Windmill Man when I was 12 years old at the Victoria Palace, you know. I went to the Open Air Theatre. I played a wave in The Tempest. And I was to understudy people. But at the big dress rehearsal, I was following Neptune. I was very tall, and by this time very slim, and I got my trident caught up Neptune's skirt. I've never seen a man leave the stage so hurriedly, with me trailing behind with my... I couldn't get the trident free, you see, and I was trying to get him free, and he was fleeing the stage because, of course, it had pierced his bum. There was no doubt about that. And everybody was hysterical, and I had a full page spread in the Mirror about the girl that got her trident mixed up in Neptune's skirts. I kept in the theatre for a long time, and it was really Alistair Sim, you know, because I was very exuberant. I can't say the word. Very exuberant. No, that's not right, is it? Oh my God! And it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. I was full of life anyway, and I worked with him 4 times in 4 different plays. And he used to say, you must do a review, Betty. You really must do a review. And I didn't do a review till I was married and had my first child. when I seriously went in, as it were, for comedy. I mean, I'd played with Constance Cummings and Frances Lister in Don't Listen Ladies, as, of course, the other woman. And she was sort of all rather bitchy and glamorous and so forth and so on. I had been in the Coliseum, done the Cinderella with Tommy Steele and Jana. I was the godmother. It was the most wonderful part. She didn't believe in magic, which was simply marvellous. It was a beautifully written book, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it was just delightful. And this was a big comedy role, but again, my sense of drama was such that I didn't see the comedy, not really, till I went on. And the audience kept falling about. And when I had to exit and then make another entrance further up the stage. And I fell into a chorus boy's arms and said, for God's sake, what's the matter? Is there a bra attached to my train? And he said, no, you silly idiot, they love you, it's you. I couldn't believe it because I was playing, but for real, I mean, very seriously. But I suppose it was hand over mouth time again because they were all screaming with laughter, and that was the way it went.
Impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Impossible for a plain country bumpkin and a prince to join in marriage. And 6 grey mice will never be 6 white horses. They will! Such folderol and fiddly-dee, of course, is impossible.
But the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules and won't believe what sensible people say.
And because these daft and dewy-eyed dopes keep building up impossible hopes, impossible things are happening every day.
On the brighter side, I worked with Stanley Baxter, and we actually did the show on television, and we did it with Richard Waring was our second man. He also wrote a lot of material. And then they decided it to be put on the stage. But Richard Waring didn't want to come into the theatre. He'd had enough of theatre. He just wanted to stay in television. So we had to find a second man. And I remembered a man who had worked with me, and I had worked with him in a very strange series we'd done at Wembley thousands of years ago. And he'd been called in. I was playing a Lancashire wife, and all I ever said was, "Oh, Bill, no." I think that was really the whole of my dialogue. And when they were discussing who would be the second man, I said, I know a man, and I couldn't remember his name. Needless to say, I'm terrible at names. Even then, I couldn't remember his name. And I spent a whole day going through spotlights. And I went through book after book after book after book. And really, they were getting rather cross, the management, because I said, "Oh, please, please see this man, you'll love him." But they were saying, "Come on, we've got little time, and you've already been 6 hours over these books." And there it was, suddenly, Ronnie Barker.
Ah, Jeeves, I was just going to ring for you.
Father, I'm not Jeeves, it's me, your son.
Ah, yes. Sit down, Emily, I want to talk to you.
Father, I'm not Emily. Emily is my sister. I'm your son, Gladys. You remember me?
Of course I remember you. You don't think I could forget my own son, do you? Sit down, Roger. I want to talk to you.
Father, I'm not Roger. I'm Gladys. Roger is in the army.
What? Why wasn't I informed of this? Roger, my only son in the army?
But he's not your only son. You have 2 sons.
Don't argue with me, Jeeves. I know how many sons I have.
Father, I am not Jeeves, and you have 2 sons.
Don't talk rubbish, Gladys. We have 1 son and 2 daughters, Emily and Gladys.
That's not true, Mother. You know I'm a son. The doctor said so.
Well, the doctor was wrong. Do you think I'd make you wear a frock if you were a boy?
But I don't wear a frock, Mother.
Oh, I've been meaning to talk to you about that, Gladys. You know how I hate to see girls wearing these slacks.
But, Mother, I am not a girl. I'm a boy. Everyone knows I'm a boy. I went to a boys' school. I slept in the boys' dormitory at Oxford. And all this season I've been playing scrum half in the Rugger 11.
Then I think it's very unladylike of you.
Ermintrude, did you know that Gladys was in the army? Roger's just informed me of it.
Is this true, Gladys?
No, Mother.
Then you've been lying again, Roger.
I am not Roger. I am Gladys. It is Roger who's in the army.
Roger as well. So they've taken 2 of my boys.
They will be killed fighting the Turks. My babies, my poor defenseless babies.
Oh, don't cry, Ermintrude. I shall go to the War Office and demand their immediate return from the front. I've never agreed with this war from the start, and I will not allow my children to fight in it. Jeeves, fetch the carriage.
For the last time, I am not Jeeves.
Then you've been lying again, Roger.
I am not Roger.
So you try to deny that as well. Is there no end to your untruthfulness?
Oh, Father, I keep telling you that I am Gladys, your eldest son, Gladys.
Gladys! Gladys! Back from the war.
Oh, my...
Yes, Mother.
But you're wearing civvies. Does this mean...
Yes, Mother, I've been demobbed. I was demobbed 2 years ago when the war finished.
Why has it taken you so long to get back?
Mother, I arrived home 2 years ago. When I came through the front door, you were sitting knitting and Father was reading. He actually looked up from his book and spoke to me.
What did he say?
He said, all right, Millie, you can clear away now.
You mean I mistook my own son for the parlour maid?
Yes, Father.
Well, that's ridiculous. She's much taller than you are. Oh, my poor boy, you must be shattered. Here, have a cigarette.
Thank you, Father. Do you have a mat?
Yes, here you are.
Gladys, you know I disapprove of young girls smoking.
Have you been smoking, Gladys?
Yes, Father. I've been smoking and I've been drinking too. And going to the theatre and to the cinema. And what's more, I'm planning to get married.
Do we know the boy?
I knew then that there was only one thing to do. I invited my fiancé up to the big house to meet my mother.
Hello, darling.
Are you nervous?
Terribly nervous.
Oh, don't be. Come on in. Mother?
Yes, what is it?
I want you to meet my fiancé, Bert.
Well, actually, I hadn't done an awful lot of radio. I think I'd been more or less the equivalent of a spear in Shakespeare in 1 or 2 things. So little, really, that I cannot remember, but I'd done about 5 or 6 things. And we were called on by dear Jakes Brown, wonderful man, who always said, "The lines are there, now lift 'em off the paper," which we did. And anyway, he had this series. He'd hoped he was going to do a pilot for a certain actor, well-known man, and he was trying to get a team together. And he invited myself, I think there was Barry Took, and Eric Merriman, because they had written it too. And I can't really remember how many people. I think Ron Moody, I'm not sure. But we went along to the Aeolian Hall to put this on tape, and our leading man didn't turn up. He didn't turn up at all. So in the end, Jake said, well, let's put something on the tape. Well, it was a funny program. And we put something on the tape, and I played various voices. And he said to me afterwards, well, Betty, if ever I do anything, I'm going to ask you, because, he loved what I'd done. And the next thing that happened was a pilot for Beyond Our Ken. And then, from there, one continued. Did 11 years of it.
Kenneth Horn. How much do we really know of him?
Well, I could tell you a thing or two.
Do you remember that voice?
Oh, I said, really, you haven't got her here, have you?
Yes. Come in, Mavis Prendergast.
Well, after all these years, eh?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm afraid I don't remember you.
Of course you do. How could you forget your old games, mistress?
Well. Bless my soul. Bless my soul, old knees bend Prendergast.
Yes, that's right. It's me, dear Lemuel.
Lemuel?
Oh, yes. His name then used to be...
No, please, Mavis.
But I thought everyone knew. Lemuel Water Sprite.
Lemuel Water Sprite.
All right. That's enough out of you, Leslie Blanche Flower.
How did you know?
Of course, it was, different from the theatre in many ways, but at the same time, the emotions were the same. And I've been doing sort of Charles and Fiona and Charles. One would get one's stomach in a knot, Charles, all that business. And it was wonderful. And Hugh Paddock was beautiful to work with. Everybody was lovely. And Kenneth Horne was the king. He was the most enchanting person. Wonderful, generous. He used to push us all into the microphone. Mind you, he had a voice that he could stand 6 yards away from it, and every word heard as clear as a bell, simply marvellous. I would say they were some of the happiest years of my theatrical career.
You the sanitary?
No.
The HP?
No.
The council?
No.
Ned! It's the law! You're not taking my Neddy away from me! He's a good boy! Don't send him back to that place!
Look, I only wanted to ask you a few questions.
You're meant to take the stuff back to the supermarket, honest, Arthur. Them tins of salmon must have just fell off the shelf and slipped down me bloomers. Honest, I didn't realise till I got back here. I haven't been well. I've been under the doctor. I had one of me turns. Ned! Tell the constable.
Oh, you're not taking my mummy. Don't take away from me. You're not taking my mummy. You don't take my mummy. What become of me? What become of me if you take my money? Oh, my mummy. Don't get mummy. No, you mustn't. I need to get a job.
No. All right. He's a one. Now, calm yourself, isn't he? I'm trying to explain, but it's very difficult to be coherent with you belabouring me about the knees with a pickaxe handle.
Stop it, Neddy, or you'll get done for grievous bodily. Constable. If I turn Queen's evidence against my Neddy, will it go easier for me? Don't let them send me back to that place!
I don't want to send anyone anywhere. I'm just conducting an inquiry on behalf of the BBC into people's viewing and listening habits.
Oh. Well, yes. Yeah, well, we feel that there's been too much violence on television.
How do I create a character? Well, I read it very carefully. For a long time. It's something that starts in one's stomach somehow, right the way down there. You begin to know, or you think you know, how this person will behave, how they'll hold their head, what motivates them. Maybe just one word in the script holds the key to the character. And I find I'm always looking for that one word. It helps me enormously. It could be very hard work if you're doing a radio show and maybe filming and then doing a play. But eating was the most important thing. Eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat. And that would sort of feed your energy. But it's not an easy thing to do because I'm a very nervous actress. And for the first night coming up, the idea of eating used to make me want to vomit, so I used to drink a pint of milk. Have that in my dressing room, drink that before going on, because I couldn't. Nervous indigestion, too dreadful for words. To describe comedy is something I'm not capable of doing. And why? Because I cannot and won't analyze it. I've never been able to understand why people laugh at me. And I'm so grateful they do, but I've never understood why. And quite honestly, I wouldn't like to attempt to discover the reason within myself, because if I did, maybe if I really knew why I made them laugh, I wouldn't make them laugh anymore. Never mind. It was all great fun. I loved it all. It's Horn's Law.
Why, Captain Horn, you play a mean game of strip poker. Right. Okay, kid. I'll see you. What have you got?
Well, I've got 3 kings and Mr. Bun the baker.
I've got a full house.
Oh.
Your turn to take something off.
Oh, right. Now, what shall it be, my galoshes or my balaclava?
Now, don't tantalize me. Captain, you drive me to distraction.
No, you drive. I'm tired.
The Comedians was researched and compiled by Steve Archer. The program assistant was Janet Staplehurst, and it was produced by Barry Littlechild. Next week, June Whitfield.